Hi class, today we're going to add fractions that don't have the same denominator. And in our class today we learned that you have to make the denominators the same before you add or subtract them. So this first section, we're going to make one denominator look like the other one. So it'll be a little bit simpler to see when you look at our multiplication chart. So here's 3, and we want to make the smaller one look like the bigger one. So 3, to make it look like a 6, we're going to multiply this 3 by 2. And whenever we multiply a fraction, we have to multiply the top and the bottom if we want to keep it an equivalent fraction. So if we multiply 1 by 2 and 3 by 2, we're going to multiply those both by 2. 3 times 2 is 6, and now we have our bottom matching the other fraction, and 1 times 2 is 2. So 1/3 has become 2/6, and we're going to add that now to another 6. Now our denominators are the same, so we keep the denominator and we add the numerators. 2 plus 1 is 3. Now this is not simplified. 3 and 6 have a common factor. 3 and 6 have a common factor of 3. Or if you want to look on this side, you can see 3 and 6 have a common factor of 3. So we have to divide 3 by the top on the top, and we have to divide 3 on the bottom. So when we're all done doing our adding, we have to simplify. So S, simplify. And we get 1/2. 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 6 divided by 3 is 2. So that one we had to simplify when we were all done. Let's do some more. Let's do number 3. 4 and 8. So we're going to make the 4 look like the 8. So look, 4, 8. So we're going to take 4 and multiply it by 2. So we're going to take this 4, and to make it look like the 8, multiply it by 2. Remember, this section, you can make one of the denominators look like the other one. So if we multiply this 4 by 2, it'll look like an 8. So we multiply this by 2 and this by 2. Remember, top and bottom. So if we rewrite this, it's 7/8 minus 1 times 2 is 2 on the top, and 4 times 2 is 8 on the bottom. So we have 7/8 minus 2/8. Keep the denominator because they're both the same now. And we subtract and we get 5, and we're done. It doesn't need to be simplified. Okay, and so you're going to do number 4. So number 2, you're going to make this 3 look like a 9. And you just remember, multiply, look here, 3 times 3. So you multiply this by 3 and this by 3, top and bottom. Here we want to make this 5 look like a 10. We'll make a 5 look like a 10. You're going to multiply 5 times 2. So this is going to be times 2, and this is going to be times 2 on the top. Right, so try those. Okay, now I'm going to do, hopefully you paused and you tried those. Now I'm going to do some of these. So number 5, notice we have a double sign, and when we have a negative, remember negative, becomes a positive. So I'm going to change this to 1/4 plus 2/12. So this minus becomes a big giant plus. Okay. And now we need to add these two fractions, but the denominators aren't the same. We can make this 4 look like a 12. If we look at our multiplication sheet, 4 can become a 12 if we multiply it by 3. So 4 will become 12 if we multiply by 3. So we're going to multiply top and bottom by 3. So this times 3 and this times 3. And we get 3 on the top and 12 on the bottom. 1 times 3 is 3. 4 times 3 is 12 plus 2/12, this part. And now we have the denominators are the same. We made this fraction have 12ths on the bottom. So the bottom is 12, and the top is 3 plus 2 is 5. And we're done. 5 and 12 do not have any common factors, in case you didn't recognize that. 5 and 12. The only common factor they have is 1, and we don't need to use 1, so we don't count the 1. Okay, so you're going to try number 6. Remember that double sign there becomes a plus. And then you're going to make that 3 look like the 9. Okay, number We have 7/8 and 3/4, so we need to make this 3/4 look like an 8. So we have 7/8 minus, now how do we make this 4 into an 8? Looking at our multiplication side here, 4 times 2 is 8. So we're going to multiply the bottom by 2 and the top by 2. Times 2 times 2. 4 times 2 is 8. There, we made the bottom look like an 8. Now the top is also going to be multiplied by 2, so that's 6. And then we subtract. Keep the denominator, and 7 minus 6 is 1. Okay. This one's a little tricky, so I'd like you to try it. You're going to make this 5 look like a 10. I'm wondering if there's another one like it that I could show you how to do. So maybe I'll do this one, and 11 is kind of like it. So let me show you how to do number 8, and then maybe you can do 11 and some of these others too. So the thing about this one is we have a negative in front here. So we're going to need to make this 5 look like a 10. We're going to multiply the top and bottom by 2 to make that a 10, right? 5 times 2 is going to be 10. So we need to multiply that by 2 to make it look like a 10. This is times 2 and this is times 2. 5 times 2 is 10 and 4 times 2 is 8. And then we have this negative. Just put the negative on the top. And then we have minus 1/10. So we have negative 8 minus 1/10. Now, when we have the same denominator, remember that bottom is going to be the 10. And the numerator is going to be everything else, negative 8 minus 1. So you have to use your number line here, unless you know your rules. Start at negative 8 and minus 1. That means we go left to negative 9. So negative 8 minus 1 is negative 9 over 10. So let's look at number 9, and then you can do 10 and 11. So number 9, we have a double sign. And before we said minus minus becomes a plus, but here we have a plus minus. So this plus minus becomes a minus. And you can have parentheses around it or not, but it's a plus minus. There's two signs right next to each other. So this becomes a minus. So if I rewrite this, it's going to be 1/2 minus 1/8. Now again, we're going to make this denominator look like this denominator. So to make 2 look like an 8, we're going to need to multiply it by 4. To make 2 look like an 8, multiply it by 4. So this times 4 and this times 4. So we get 1 times 4 is 4 on the top, 2 times 4 is 8 on the bottom. And subtract 1/8. Our denominator stays 8, and it's just 4 minus 1. Everything else goes on the top, 4 minus 1, and that's 3 over 8. So you're going to do something very similar with here, and very similar here, where you make the denominator look like that one, that make the 2 look like the 4. You have a double sign. It takes a little bit of work to get these right. Give them a try. And then you're going to make this one look like a 10. And then when you get the 10s on the bottom, everything else goes on the top. Okay, let's look at 12, 13, and 14. These are mixed numbers, so I'm going to do number 12. So we're going to leave the whole number the same, leave the 1. But look, we have 1/4 and we have 3/16. We want these denominators to be the same, so we're going to need to change this one. And to make 4 into 16, we're going to multiply by 4. So we're going to multiply that by 4. So the top gets multiplied by 4 and the bottom gets multiplied by 4. So we have 1, and 1 times 4 is 4. 4 times 4 is 16. So now 1/4 is rewritten as 4/16 plus 2 and 3/16. Now remember, when we're adding mixed numbers, we add the whole numbers first. So 1 plus 2 is 3. And then we add up the fractions. We have 16ths, and we have 4 plus 3 is 7. So we change that fraction to look like 16ths, and then we add up the whole numbers together to get 3, and then we add up the fractions to get 7/16. This one is particularly tricky because you end up with an improper fraction on one of them, and so what happens is we have the 2 and we have the 7/8, and we want to add it to the 1/4, but this needs to be 8ths, right? To make 4 into 8ths, you have to multiply it by 2. So you multiply the bottom by 2 and the top by 2, and you get 2/8. So this one is a little bit strange because we have this whole number 2, right? We add that to the thing over here, so we just have 2. Then we have 7 plus 2 is 9. We put that over 8. But this right here is a mixed number and an improper fraction together. So basically, you have to change this into this. Watch. 2 and 8/8 plus 1/8, which means this is a whole plus 2. It becomes 3 and 1/8. Now this one's sort of an extra credit question, but it is something that would be good for you to know how to do. Okay, in the very bottom row is adding a whole number or subtracting from a whole number. So I'll do 15 and I'll do 18. Okay, so 15, we have 1 plus 3/8. Well, honestly, if you understand what fractions mean, you would just know that this is 1 and 3/8, just like that. Okay? But if you want to do it this other way, you change 1 into 1 over 1, and we're going to multiply top and bottom by 8. So we want this to be 8ths. So we want it to be 8/8. That means 1. 8/8. Remember, this means 1 plus 3/8. So we just rewrote the 1 to be 8 over 8. That's a whole. And we want it in 8ths because we're going to add it to 3/8. So then we add this together, and we have 8ths on the bottom and 11 on the top. I did this in class. I'm going to do another one now. I'm going to do number 18. So here we have 1 minus a third. So this is in thirds. So we're going to rewrite this 1 as 3/3. That means 1 whole 1. We're going to subtract a third from that. And so we have 3/3 minus 1/3. So 3 is on the bottom, and 3 minus 1 is 2. We're done. I think I'm going to change this to a 1. Alright, so you're going to do 16 and 17 the same way. You're going to rewrite this as 4/4, and you're going to rewrite this one as 5/5. Okay. Now in the next section, we have to make these two denominators match each other, but you can't just make a 4 look like a 5 or 5 look like a 4. You have to change both of these fractions. So one of the ways you might want to do this is look at 4 and 5. There's our denominators, 4 and 5, and see when do they share a common multiple. So remember, these are all multiples. So 4, 8, 12, 16. There's 20. And if I look at 5, 10, 15, look, they share these numbers. So 4 can be turned into 20, and 5 can be turned into 20. So we're going to take 4 times 5 to make it into 20ths. In other words, both of these are going to become 20ths because that's the common multiple. All right, so let's look at how we're going to do that. So to make 4 into 20, we multiply it by 5. So we multiply this by 5 to get the 20, and multiply this by 5 on top, so we get 5 20ths. Then we have 3/5. Okay, well, to make 5 into a 20, we multiply it by 4. So I multiplied it by 4 to get 20, so I have to multiply the top by 4. And 3 times 4 is 12. So now we've rewritten 1/4 to mean 5 over 20, And we've rewritten 3 over 5 to be 12 over 20. And now our denominators are the same, so we can add up the numerator. 5 plus 12 is 17, and we keep the denominators 20, and so that is how you do these. We're going to change both of these denominators. So let's try, I'll do number 21. So 21, we have a double sign. It's a negative, negative. Remember, that makes a positive. This becomes a big giant plus. So we have 1/4 plus 1/6. Now, both of these need to get changed. You can't make a 4 into a 6. If you look here, 4 does not become 6 if you multiply by something. And 6, of course, is not going to become a 4. So we need to figure out what number between 4 and 6 can we turn them both into. Well, let's look. 4 and 6. Look, I see a common multiple, 12 and 12. It's the least common multiple. There's more. There's 24. There's 36. They share 36. They share some more over here. But right now we're looking for the smallest one. And the smallest one they share is the 12. So I can change fourths into 12ths and 6 into 12ths. How are we going to do that? Well, to change fourths into 12ths, we multiply by 3. So I'll multiply top and bottom by 3. We get 3 over 12. Now remember, we can also change the 6 into 12. So we can multiply 6 by 2 to get 12. So I can multiply this top by 2 and this bottom by 2 to get 12ths on the bottom. 6 times 2 is 12. And then 1 times 2 is 2. So now both of these fractions have been changed. This 1/4 has been changed into 3/12, and this 1/6 has been changed into 2/12. And now we'll add them together, and 12 stays on the bottom. Because our denominators are the same, we can add the numerators, and we get 5 over 12. So you're going to find the common multiple for least common multiple for 3 and 5. And so you look at 3 and 5. And we keep looking at 3 and 5, and when do they have a common multiple? And I see 15 and 15. See them? 3, 6, 9, that's not, I don't share that till we get to 15. So you figure out how to make this a 15 and this a 15 by looking at your multiplication chart. Okay, I'm going to do a couple more on the bottom here. I'll go ahead and do 24. So 24, we have 5 and 2 on the bottom. I can't make 2 look like a 5 by multiplying by a whole number. So 2 and 5, or excuse me, 2, there's no 5 here. So I'm not going to be able to multiply it by something to get 5. So I have to look for a least common multiple between 2 and 5. So here's 2 and here's 5. So let's see, when do they share a multiple? I see a 10 here and a 10 here. No, they don't share 2, they don't share 4, they don't share 6 or 8, but they share a 10. 10. And sometimes you can just multiply these two together, 5 times 2, and then you'll get your common multiple that way. So 10. Okay, so we're going to make both of these turn into tenths. This is going to be a tenth, and this is going to be a tenth over here. All right, so how do I make 5 turn into 10? I have to multiply it by 2. So multiply 5 by 2, which means we have to multiply the top by 2. 2 over 2. So 5 times 2 is 10, and 2 times 2 is 4. Now to make the 2 look like a 10, we're going to multiply it by 5. Right? 2 times 5 is 10. So multiply both top and bottom by 5. 2 times 5 is 10, and 1 times 5 is 5. Now I have to be very careful here when we subtract. Our denominators are the same, okay? But our numerator, everything else goes up in our numerator. 4 minus 5. Now if you look at your number line, or if you think about that, 5 is bigger than 4. Whoops. 5 is bigger than 4. So this is going to be a negative number. What is 4 minus 5? Let's get our line out here. I'm going to do 4 minus 5. 4 and then go left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we get negative 1. It's negative 1 over 10, not 1 over 10. So when you're adding and subtracting these fractions, you have to be careful. What are you doing on the numerators here? Be careful not to make an integer mistake. Okay, so I'll do 26. 26, we have a whole number minus a fraction, and that's fine. We'll just leave this as a whole number, but we need to make these fractions match, the denominators match. So 3 and 7. Well, this is one of those ones where you could also just multiply 3 times 7, and that will give you the common multiple, but we can look here too. 3 and 7. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, I see one, 21. 21 and 21. So that's the first time that they share one. Okay, it's kind of hard to spot them sometimes. But actually, in this case, 3 times 7 is 21, so it's a little easier. Okay, so we're going to make this into 21ths, and this one into 21ths. So 3 times what gives us 21? You can look on your multiplication chart and you'll see it's times 7. So multiply top and bottom by 7. So 3 times 7 is 21, and 2 times 7 is 14. So we just rewrote 2/3 as 14 over 21. Now we have 1 over 7. To make 7 into 21, you have to multiply it by 3. So top and bottom by 3. 7 times 3 was 21, and 1 times 3 is 3. Now we can subtract because we have the common denominator. So 2, do the mixed number first, or the whole number first. 2 minus, well, there's no whole number, so that's just 2. And then 14 minus 3 is 11, and it all goes over 21. Okay, that's our introduction / review of how to add fractions that have different denominators and how to make them the same. Good luck.